Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda with the Activated Earth, and I'm super excited that I have Finian Makepeace from Kiss the Ground here. This is our last day, and this is the day that gets to be all about how we get to be different and how we get to change. So this is who Finian is. He is the co-founder and policy director and lead educator of Kiss the Ground. He is a renowned presenter, which I've seen for myself, so that's true. A media creator and thought leader in the field of regenerative agriculture and soil health. His dedication to Kiss the Ground's mission of awakening people to the possibilities of regeneration has motivated him to develop training programs, workshops, and talks designed to empower people around the world to become confident advocates for this growing movement. So that is all about who you are and what you've been doing. And I'm not really sure how long you've been doing this. All I know is that I discovered Kiss the Ground on Facebook several years ago and have been following for a long time. And I would love to hear your origin story. You know, how did this turn into something from an idea, and what was your personal why around why Kiss the Ground needed to be brought to life?
Thank you for having me. It's really great to be here with everyone. If I have time, I'll try to do it quickly, but there's two main components of the origin story for me and Kiss the Ground. The first started with a dream that I had. It's kind of crazy, but I had a dream that I was an old man and I was living in a refugee camp in Brazil, like the middle part of Brazil. And this is way in the future. You know, I'm like 90 years old or something in this dream. And my granddaughter is there with me, and she wakes me up in the middle of the night, and we're in this refugee camp, and she's like, I found a hole in the fence and let's come explore. She basically tells me, let's go out of the hole in the fence and let's go. So we sneak out of the refugee camp and we walk for a while. And then as the dawn approaches, we come over this hill and we see in front of us this city. The city's completely destroyed after, this is a point in history where climate change has wreaked havoc on the world. Billions of people dead, billions more misplaced, and we're dealing with just like climate meltdown completely. And she looks up at me and she has tears streaming down her face, and she's just like, why did you let this happen? She's angry and really pointing at me to say, why didn't you do anything? And I came out from that dream shaken and moved really of like, what would happen if I was asked that question? And how likely is that based on everything I know? That's not that far out of the question for where we're headed. So I got a really powerful wake-up call of like, I can't be in that position. I got to find something to do that is going to help, that is going to change the trajectory. Lo and behold, about 8 months later, my friend Ryland had been in New Zealand. He's one of the owners of Cafe Gratitude. We've been friends since we were children in Ithaca, New York. And he's this owner of this restaurant chain, organic vegan restaurant chain, thinking he's doing the good work on the front of environmental stuff, goes to this conference, watch a panel called Can Human Beings Sustain Themselves on Planet Earth? The first 5 panelists say no. And the last panelist, this gentleman named Graham Sate, says, well, everything they said is true. There's just something we've overlooked. Humanity has grossly overlooked our ability to help rebuild soil, regrow soil faster than we ever thought possible. And this means we have a climate solution. This means we have so many other solutions to these crises that we face. So Ryland, of course, is excited. He's an excited, like a very passionate person. He comes back to LA, tells me there's this big thing you got to hear about. I'm kind of his activist friend, the one who's been on the front lines of activist environmental movements my whole life. And so I'm like, okay, sounds like you're excited. So he convinces Graham Sate to stop in Los Angeles and speak to us. And we set up this auditorium. I bring my sound system because at that point I'm a touring musician. And we put this event on. And Graham talks to us for 4 hours, and having a pretty substantial background in soil health or science and soil and biology myself, to a limited degree, but some profound things that happened. Like my 12th grade year, I helped study soil samples with Cornell University and found out mycorrhizal fungi was the reason that trees were messaging each other about airborne viruses. So I had some stuff that when I heard the whole complete package story from Graham State, it was the biggest light bulb moment of my life of like, how did I not know about this? As a passionate environmentalist, activist, I was clueless. I was thinking like, oh, I'm in the 95th percentile of people who know what the heck's going on right now. And I was like, how did I not know about soil? So it was this wake up call where literally that night we went back to Ryland's house and we're like, if we didn't know about this, pretty much our conclusion is probably most people don't know about this. And it was a moment of like, well, then we're pretty obligated now to help get the word out. So it was very immediate for us of like, we got to do something to help get the word out here. And what we did was dedicate every Monday, we'll meet and figure out what to do about this. And a year later, Kiss the Ground, the organization, was officially born. And then about 6 months later, our first piece of media, The Soil Story, was created. So we found our niche, which was really being champions. We're not the scientists, we're not the farmers, but we can learn as much as we possibly can, and we can help champion this movement. And now this last year, Kiss the Ground, the film, was launched as kind of a bigger version of that. And we've always been behind the scenes working to connect this movement and connect people to it and do what our mission says, which is awakening people to the possibilities of regeneration.
Awesome. So as an educator and having now this really awesome platform that you get to move forward with, what is the grandest vision of what you would like to accomplish with Kiss the Ground, and how do you get to apply that for your own self in your personal life?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know the full answer to that. I think there's so many things that are occurring now and are on the horizon, but really, I think really the hope is that we can have an awakening that breaks us through our stalemate with nature. That goes for myself as well, of like how separated I still feel, as much as I know about this stuff, the lack of time and energy and focus I can give to what surrounds me in my ecosystem in my own backyard, and being there for my plants and being a steward to what's directly in front of me. But I think humanity at large, my hope is that with this awakening where we're allowing for example, farmers to simultaneously get out of the grips of the hamster wheel of economic disparities around loans and input costs and these things that are strangling them, to moving to more financial abundance while loving farming again, meaning they're connecting with the land. They're having this really exceptional experience of being stewards, of watching the land regenerate, heal itself, and be a part of that. So really the big awakening is that we're moving from kind of the mechanical mind into the natural emergent mind, and being a part of this grand regeneration of planet Earth, and allowing for myself to probably take more time and do that too, and within my own limited context.
Yeah. Do you think that if you actually gave yourself more time to be in that connection that you're speaking of, like what you're trying to educate people around, as far as a different relationship with the earth, do you think that would actually make you a better educator around that, or make you feel more fulfilled? How would that
Yeah.
change your life if you just gave yourself like 20 minutes a day to?
I definitely give myself 20 minutes a day. I think more would be substantially different. Like, carving out, oh, this week I'm taking Thursday, Friday to be on a farm and go there and listen and learn and be completely enraptured in this. That's the stuff I'm really hoping to build into my lifestyle, so that I know every time I do it, it's like what's the little character's name, like Mario, like doo, 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 doo.
Oh yeah,
Like,
that little guy.
yeah, like the little, like, you know, boop boop, you're getting these gains because
Getting a
as much
level
as you
up.
read in a book, as much as you talk about it, when you're there, you know, the really, if you think about my position of what I'm talking about in the world, it's still ridiculous how few times, you know, I've actually been there and done that. I talk to the people who are leading this all the time, but every time I go there and experience it, and that's why I encourage all of our soil advocates in Kiss the Ground who are training, I'm like, go to regenerative farms. You can't do it enough. When you do it and you see it, especially the successful people who are doing it well, the real leaders in this, it's so phenomenal because you can believe from a book or a video that infiltration happens at 4 seconds for a half an inch of water versus, you know, a half an inch of water in an hour. But when you see it, it's so shocking.
Yeah.
It's the difference of seeing it in real life is so transformative. So, and the biodiversity that you're seeing, the feeling of life, right? Like, you know this, that when you're experiencing, you're sensing the increase of insects. Even going to a CAFO. When I made the film A Regenerative Secret it's on YouTube, we went to the CAFO and it was silent. Thousands of cows in front of us, not a peep.
Wow.
It was haunting.
Wow.
Ugh, like super haunting. Then we went to go to the regenerative farm, and these cows aren't doing what I've envisioned cows doing the whole time. So here's a little picture of this. We drive to do the filming. Across the street is a regular grass-fed animals doing whatever they want ranch. We drive in at 6 a.m. Heads down of the cows, they're munching grass. We drive in at lunchtime. Heads down, cows munching grass. The grass is about this tall. We go out for dinner. Heads down, munching grass. So literally the whole time we're there, cows are meandering around eating grass. That's what I've seen cows do my whole life. I go to Alan Williams Ranch. They have the cows in a place. We go there for a fence move because they're making a new paddock that's about half an acre in size. They make the new paddock. The cows run into the fresh grass. They eat grass. They eat, trample, and eat a third, trample a third, and leave a third standing in the course of about 45, 50 minutes. Then they all, 80% of them lay down and just chew their cud for the next several hours. And I was like, what is going on here? And he's like, this is how it's supposed to go. They're eating what they need and then they're resting, as any animal would want to do. So that was a flip. Those are moments where you're like, you can't not experience that in person. When you're there experiencing, you're like, oh my God, my whole world of how cows are wasn't real because I wasn't in any iota of what cows are supposed to naturally do or these ruminants are supposed to naturally do. So just really interesting when you flip it and see it in reality. So yes, go visit, go experience it. And I am taking a major check to go out and make sure I get more of that for myself.
Awesome. That's really great. I love that story. And the reason why I asked that question is sort of a precursor to what I really wanted to talk about which was that, most of your teachings, at least everyone that I have seen or participated in, begins with a little nature connection meditation. And I would love to hear you share what it is that is your purpose behind putting that before the teachings.
Yeah. So I like to do that because when it's been done to me, it transforms me. And most of the things you hear me talk about aren't from me. They're from me capturing epic things that happened to me or learning experiences that I have that I rehash in my head so that they can be available for others. I'm a whatever the word you call it is, like a receiver output megaphone person. So I've experienced that before. And the difference of connecting to a topic in a meditation, I always experience and it just goes for myself. Like it frames it for me for the rest of that time together. I'm able to be in that space. So this week we were on water and Don led the meditation and people were being, water molecules. And we had a person share after the meditation, like they literally felt like they were being a water molecule. However that was for them,
Yeah.
that was their experience. They were traveling through the plants and the soil and the atmosphere, and they were there. And I feel like those can be powerful moments for us when we're then looking at ecosystems and looking at policy change to say, like, we can make this better. And she said, I wonder if the water molecules are experiencing the degradation and sad about it, basically. And
I'm
so she
sure
was
they are.
having, and she was having this moment for them. But that's a powerful thing. Even if whatever, maybe it's crazy, who knows? But that's really important because you're having a perspective that is the reality more so than your own reality of what the water particle has to deal with to move through this broken system. And that can be powerful. So yeah,
Yeah.
I do it to set the focus and the experience, the feeling that we're in for the remainder of the learning.
Yeah. I think it's a really powerful experience. So the next question I have, I'm actually going to read it because I don't want to mess it up. So speaking in terms of agriculture and the earth as a conscious being versus simply being a resource extraction commodity, would you share your thoughts around how this could affect how we treat this planet?
Yeah, I think it's really important. One thing I threw over to a recent interview was this question: what if science's parent wasn't monotheistic religion, but instead the majority of derived from, let's say, Northeastern United States Native American mindset or culture or ideology? So the phenomenon of science and the way we're looking at it, the discrepancies and the issues that are now coming straight at us, the siloed nature, the tendencies of high-level decisions that need to be defended all the time and not broken down. If you look at systemically that disconnect from nature that it started from, science is up for a world of hurt forever, unless we admit who its parent is. If its parent is monotheistic religion that itself has been constructed for control and a lot of issues that don't pertain to the original source of it maybe, but is convoluted with these other controlling aspects, versus if science stemmed from this more stewardship mindset of we are the animals, they are our brothers and sisters, the water is sacred, the land is sacred, like I'm here to be a steward, I'm here as a mind and a body to help these elements. If science came from that, think about how different science would be right now. The same abilities science has to digest and figure things out and analyze and look at microscopes or whatever, but like we're in a vastly concocted world right now from our past that I encourage all of us to dive in and recognize where we come from, what's the origin of our mind. It's not our fault, but if we check into the mechanical mind and start to say, hey, where did this stem from, and question it a bit. You don't have to throw all of it out at all. I'm not suggesting that. There's so much richness to be utilized, but recognizing the origin mindset of some of this stuff is important, and I think can help us heal and self-criticize to help us move forward.
Yeah, and I personally, as a scientist, just as a share here, I like to tell people that science is not it's not something that is like a noun. It's a way of doing things. It's observation. Science is observation and just paying attention to what's happening. And you can try to derive the how and the why from it, but does it really matter? And science is not a set of facts, and science always has an ever-changing horizon because things shift around what we are able to see, or something that we didn't know comes to light, and then science gets to pivot on that. And I feel that it's unfortunate the kind of society that we have created looks at science as research and facts that are derived from the research, and that's just not what science is. So
yeah, and I think that's exactly, thank you for that reinterpretation. That's exactly what the reminder I'm trying to get at here is. It's not that it's wrong in its essence.
Yeah.
You know, when I ask you, like, or ask my dad, for example, I was like, he thought he was totally different than his mom and his parents because he tried to be. Well, science tried to be different than its parent called dogmatic religion, but you and I are both probably 80% like our parents, no matter what we tried to be different like them, you know? So I'm trying to bring people to that reminder of like, we all got to keep consciously evolving here because the origin of this stuff has these tendencies of control, of dominance, of these things versus interconnectivity, et cetera. So
Yeah. And evolution is really key to, you know, evolving our mindset is really key to helping the planet right now. And with that in mind, what do you hear is the biggest objection to switching to regenerative farming? And how do you deal with that? What do you say? What do you do in order to enroll somebody into regenerative farming?
yeah, that's great. It's a perfect segue because we were just talking about it's kind of the siloed mind and how easy some of the analysis can be. Um, I'll give you one hilarious example. So a paper came out that says it turns out healthy soil puts out more CO2 than non-health, meaning like soil with higher organic matter puts out more CO2 than soil with lower organic matter. And if you look at the siloed approach that conclusion came to, for those, I don't know how many soil people we're dealing with out there, but soil organic matter is organic matter, which came from something living or had been living, right? So when it gets consumed, as it always will be doing, it turns back into CO2. Mm-hmm. So if you're able to build healthy soil, which has profoundly more organic matter in it, you're going to be respiring more carbon dioxide. But lo and behold, I'll try to pick an old plant here that I can take from. Lo and behold, nature figured out a way to help that. So healthy soil right here, respiring CO2, a lot of that's going to get captured. Obviously not all of it, but some of it's going to get captured by the stomata in the plant to reuse that and pump more carbon down, feeding the microbes and creating more soil carbon. That's the carbon pump, right? We're taking carbon from the atmosphere, taking carbon that's coming from the ground, pushing it back, and we're getting a net carbon gain in our soil. But because sometimes these limited mindsets of science are saying, but the soil itself is emitting more carbon dioxide. And you're like, yeah, because it's got more life in it. So they're almost able to make the argument like, oh, well, deader soil emits less carbon, therefore it's better for climate. And you're just like, oh my God, yeah, a tilled bare soil field that's lost most of its carbon to oxidization and has no plants to recapture it, that's obviously going to emit to a certain factor, but then it's going to be dead and it's going to stop emitting as much CO2. That doesn't mean that's a good thing. So this lack of holistic approach can sometimes be maddening. So what I try to say to people, like, you'll see some of these critiques of like, well, this paper came out and said it can't sequester this much carbon. I'd be like, okay, fine. How much water can it infiltrate when it's properly functioning soil? How much biodiversity is it helping to propagate? How much is it helping for native plants to come back because the conditions are right? Okay, if that one study in this particular region with this particular cropping system didn't yield the significant carbon numbers you heard were possible with carbon sequestration, fine, I'll give you that. Maybe that happened. Doesn't mean that soil is not the biggest carbon sink. Doesn't mean that the rebuilding of soil isn't creating all of these functional capacities that humanity and the planet desperately need today. So it's oftentimes looking at the bigger context, taking people out of their, well, I heard this, reframing it for them and setting them up to think regeneratively, setting them up to see the system as it doesn't really matter at the end of the day what that study said, because regenerating functional landscapes makes it so we can have a world that humans and other animals and plants can live on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm working with a farmer right now, a farm. And I mean, this is kind of a follow-up question to that. I didn't even know I was going to ask this. But I'm working with a farm right now. And the most I have been able to get them to do is to agree that they are going to put in experimental rows where they won't till it and they won't like worry about the weeds. They're just going to plant directly in,
Mhm.
and they're not going to till, they're not going to mound up the soil, and they're not going to use their plastic mulch. They're going to mulch it. And this is an organic farm. So they're going to just mulch it with whatever they can find on site. So
But they're gonna try to mulch it to hold down some other suppression of
they're
weeds
gonna
potentially.
mulch it to keep the soil from being bare. Right now, they
Right,
keep
okay.
the soil bare and they plastic mulch it. And
Got it.
how do I get them out of the mindset that this isn't an experiment? It's not an experiment. It's been
Well,
done.
that's so great that you're bringing that up. And working with farmers is it's not as easy as we would hope. And it's the same thing with I think probably most people's lifestyles that you're asking for them to make a radical change. So with people with onboarding on the health side of this stuff of like glyphosate, for example, avoiding it.
Mhm.
I am often not telling them that their whole program, unless they're ready for it. Again, priming has a lot to do with this, right? Like you want to make sure someone's ready to hear what you want to sell them. But a lot of people who are new to this and sort of slightly timid, I'd rather have them switch to organic bread as their first thing for the first 6 months, and then I come back to them, than saying, I'm going to change your whole regime, otherwise you're not doing it right. Because they're not going to. They're still going to like their candy bars. They're still going to be killing themselves with glyphosate on all these other fronts.
Right.
But if I can get them to stop their bread and maybe one or two other items, switch those, they're going to be sending me photos of them with their new bread because they're proud that they made a step here. So sometimes when we talk about farmer onboarding, it is like people, how many stories of, oh, I started my cover crop, it worked. That's why I'm a regenerative farmer 5 years, 2 years, 3 years from now. So don't beat yourself up. If you get success with a trial, that's amazing. And I would add to that is, as a practitioner who's right there, where can you leverage other experts in that same cropping system who've done it successfully to say, okay, I got them to bite, they're going to do this, but I want to make sure that that plot is not just okay. I want to make sure it's exceptional. So maybe you're combining with someone in your region of, oh, what is this cover crop mixture that I'm going to have them do? Maybe I'm going outside. Maybe I'm helping them purchase this cover crop seed for 5 acres or whatever it is. But we hear time and time again, if you can help that plot be exceptional, your bet is so much bigger. If it's just a little bit the same or even a little less good, a lot of farmers aren't starting from the place of, oh, I did a good thing for the environment here. I did a good thing for my friend who likes regenerative agriculture. They're going to want to know if this can be built into their bigger system financially and everything else. So I would encourage you, if you get that plot, and this is for anyone listening out there, I would say, hey, if you're at your bandwidth with what you can offer them in terms of comprehensive farmer applications, go try to find some of these other experts to kind of get some of these key insights on, okay, you got them here. This is what you should have them do. Make sure you get your cover crop seed. Make sure they do this. And then all of a sudden your win is going to be that much greater. And the next year they'll be like, oh my God, we did an infiltration test on this field. We did a nitrogen availability test. And wow, it skyrocketed. Thank you so much for helping us do that.
Yeah, and I actually did do that infiltration test for them in various places around the farm, and it was pretty non-existent, except for the place where they were, the one tiny place where they were treating things in the right way around a tree. It was had companion planting, and it was mulched entirely, and the water went right in.
What was the infiltration on the other parts?
The one place I waited 15 minutes and had to leave.
That's the thing. And
that's where the experimental rows are going to go. It's so
right.
compacted. My plan is to use my penetrometer before and after, and I just want to prove it to them that way.
Amazing. So, that's incredible. Well,
yeah.
Well done. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. And thank you. Thank you for the tips on that. And just to wrap everything up, is there anything else that you haven't shared that you would like to share? It can be anything, any way for people to check out, or any resources that you have to offer and where they might be.
Yes, Kiss the Ground is really here to champion this movement. It means any of you out there who want to get into this, heard about this, want to learn soil advocate training and our regenerative garden training and other access to all of our materials and videos and things. They're here for you as tools to excel in this as an advocate, just as you have here, and are continuing to do for all of us. The other thing is we have a big campaign coming called Regenerate America that we're going to be launching for. It's called Regenerate America. Soil is our common ground. It's a huge platform push and 10 million signatures to help reform the next Farm Bill, 2023-2024 Farm Bill in the United States.
Nice.
We're really excited about it. We'd love to get your attention and awareness on it as it launches this fall, so that we can make sure that all of the folks who are listening from the United States are able to get involved and make sure that this is the biggest campaign around the Farm Bill, which is your food bill, your biodiversity bill, your climate bill, all those other things included, that you can help support. And we're here to make sure this is a really far-reaching campaign.
That's really excellent. I'm so glad to hear that. And I just want to thank you again for doing this with me. And I'm excited that I get to share this in places where the groups of people might not have heard this message otherwise. So thank you again, Finian, for being here. I really, really appreciate your time. And I'm assuming all of those things that you mentioned can be found at your website, which is definitely going to be shared in the email as this all goes out. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me.